The modern classic motorcycling genre has never been as big as it is today, and in India, nobody does it quite as authentically and successfully as Royal Enfield. In the last 5 years, multiple companies have created their products in an attempt to carve out a piece of this pie. And today we have with us the latest one in the form of the Hero Mavrick 440. Since this bike uses a big thumping air-cooled engine, we've decided to put it up against two of its main rivals in this category. Let us find out which flavour of retro is best for you. In this class, the way a bike looks is quite important, and some would argue it's the paramount reason to get a motorcycle like this. We'll start with the new kid on the block, the Hero Mavrick 440. There are really no retro elements in its overall design, but this is still a striking looking thing. The muscular tank and its wide shrouds do turn heads wherever you go, although the rear section is a little unremarkable. However, as unique as the design is, fit and finish is an area where the Hero still has some ways to go. The switchgear isn't the best over here, and the same can be said for some of the plastics. Where the Hero at least has its own identity, the same cannot be said about this Honda. When the Highness and RS models came out some years ago, they had a clear sense of Honda design identity about them, but the same cannot be said about this CB because Honda is quite closely benchmarked the Royal Enfield Classic 350. You'll see that in multiple areas all over the bike, from the way this long swoopy fender covers almost the entire wheel, the fender supports, the way the seats are shaped, the tubular grab handle, and that long horizontal exhaust muffler. All of this makes it disappointingly unoriginal. Typical of Honda, quality and attention to detail is at a pleasing level, but the heritage you see here is not Honda's own. And that neatly brings us to the Royal Enfield Bullet 350, a bike whose design is so authentic to the original article that you could almost mistake it for the 1964 model, not the 2024. Okay, there's a little bit of exaggeration there, I'll admit, but that statement does have some truth to it. That iconic headlight nacelle, those unmistakable pilot lamps, the chromed pea shooter pipes, these golden hand-painted pinstripes, and that boxy rear fender, these elements instantly identify it as the Royal Enfield Bullet, which is the longest running model in continuous production in two-wheeler history. The Bullet is 90 years young. To all our eyes, this is the most beautiful bike over here, and typical of modern day Royal Enfields, fit and finish is at a pleasingly high level, and this has the best material finish of all the bikes we have here. There are only two subjective nitpicks I have with the Bullet's design. I would have liked some proper metal badges rather than the plastic ones I see here, and I wish Royal Enfield gave it the trademark rectangular taillight design instead of just repurposing the Classics unit over here. Cheekily, Royal Enfield will sell you that authentic Bullet tail lamp for Rs 400 as an optional accessory. None of these bikes have the latest in terms of technology, but they're not what you'd call Spartan either. And when it comes to features, the Hero Mavrick 440 has the other two beat fair and square. It is the only one to get a slipper clutch, support turn-by-turn navigation on the display, and also show you call notification alerts. However, as feature-rich as the display is, the design leaves much to be desired. The main information is nestled within a small digital rectangle, and the rest of the empty space is occupied by the telltale lights and bezels. It also feels made to a budget and is the least special one here. We have the top Mavrick variant, so it comes with machined finishes on the alloys and eSIM functionality for the dash. The mid variant misses the machined finishes and eSIM but comes with alloys. Do bear in mind that the Mavrick's base variant runs on wire spoke wheels with tube tires and can only be had in white. The Honda CB350's dash also has some Bluetooth connectivity, but it only works if you have a headset to connect it to. Just like the Mavrick, it too gets a slipper clutch, but it's the only one here to get traction control. This might seem like overkill on a 21 horsepower bike, but in inclement weather it could come in handy. The Bullet is not renowned for its feature list and is a rather simple bike, especially so in this company. It doesn't get a slipper clutch, the tripper navigation pod as well as the alloy wheels are optional extras, and its handsome digi analog dash doesn't even show you the gear you are in. However, the base variant of the Bullet, which has a drum rear brake, will cost you Rs 1.74 lakh, which is a fair saving for not a lot less equipment than the bike we have here. Just like their design, each bike has a unique engine to suit its own respective character. We'll start off with the largest engine that powers the Hero Mavrick. There's a clear edge that the Mavrick has in terms of performance and highway cruising ability compared to the other two. It is the only one amongst this trio to manage a sub 10 second 0 to 100 kph run, and is also the only bike with a 6-speed gearbox. Interestingly, that added performance doesn't really come at the expense of fuel efficiency, and in our tests, the Mavrick returned 32 kpl in the city and 40 out on the highway. The Mavrick also is a more sporty and communicative machine. I think that's probably down to the smaller 17-inch alloy wheels and this is the only bike to run on 17 inches. The other bikes have larger wheels. The way it behaves is very different to the other two, and the Mavrick reminds me a lot of the Speed 400 in the way that it flicks into a corner. It feels like a proper sporty roadster. The brakes are also the best of this bunch, and they give you good feel and feedback as well. The Mavrick also has a very nice, deep, bassy and raspy exhaust note to it, and here I'll give you a listen. However, there are some drawbacks. First, the on-off throttle transition is a little too jerky, and the engine braking is too strong, which doesn't allow you to coast as peacefully as the other two when you close the throttle. In the city, this gets tiring. Then there is the fact that the added performance comes with added vibes, and anything over 105, 110 will feel uncomfortable. This is a little surprising because we didn't run into the same issues on the Harley X440, a bike the Mavrick is largely similar to. Then there is its scooped out seat, which really hems you in place if you're a taller rider, and the padding is too soft, all of which makes you saddle sore after anything over an hour. The riding position too is more of a modern roadster compared to the other two, and this was the bike that we all unanimously agreed is the least comfortable of the bunch. The CB350's riding experience matches the design ethos of this bike except for one crucial aspect, but we'll circle back to that in a bit. This engine is the smoothest one of this lot, and vibes only creep in when you're in the top reaches of the rev band. It's got an audible thump to it, but it's not as loud as the Hero Mavrick, which I quite prefer, but you'll have to take a listen to it to make sure it suits your taste. The way you're seated on this motorcycle is also very natural, and this is an all-day comfortable motorcycle. This is not an energetic or eager handler, but the chassis is set up well enough so that it's composed through the bends. The suspension handles most bumps without a fuss, but repeated small bumps and really big ones upset it, and it can feel a little soft and underdamped. At the rear, you can tweak preload, and this should help you, especially if you're riding with a pillion. Ever since Honda's air-cooled 350cc platform debuted, we have been saying that it needs shorter gearing to fully be able to enjoy this motor. On the latest model, Honda has left things exactly as they were, and like before, it feels like it has no bottom-end torque. You constantly need to make gear changes to ensure you're in the power band, which detracts from the otherwise relaxing riding experience. The flip side of the tall gearing is that the CB350 is a good highway cruiser and can hold 100-110 kph with no buzz to speak of. It's also the most fuel efficient motorcycle of this bunch. The CB also gets traction control, but in the week we spent with it, we couldn't really get it to kick even when provoked. In most ways, this is a similar riding experience to the Royal Enfield, but without the effortless torque, and that's a crucial miss. On the plus side, it has some modern niceties like the light clutch action and tubeless tires. And that brings us to the Bullet. There's no getting away from the fact that this is the slowest, heaviest and least fuel efficient motorcycle here. However, once you fire up that engine, all those thoughts will fade away. And this engine sounds really authentic and is the least artificial of these three. To ride, the Bullet feels almost exactly like the classic 350 except for the slightly taller handlebar, and that's a great thing. The Bullet really makes you feel special in how you're seated, and it has the best seat here for both the rider and the passenger. Another plus point is that it's composed just about everywhere and it will bulldoze through the worst of the Indian roads to keep the rider very comfortable while it's at it. Sure, this isn't the fastest bike here or the quickest, but when you're riding it, you're transported to such a zen state of mind that you don't mind maintaining a more mellow pace and soak in the sights around you. If you don't want to do that, it can easily hold a 90 to 100 kph cruise as well. Like the Honda, the Bullet has a rather wooden feeling front brake which doesn't inspire much confidence when coming to a halt in a hurry. If you are a lighter person, you also need to pay attention to the 195 kilo curb weight at walking speeds. That's where you'll feel every ounce and you need to plan your maneuvers carefully. The Bullet also has the heaviest clutch pull here, but it's nothing you can't live with once you get used to it. By now it's clear that each bike has its own way of doing things, so we'll explain what each bike is best at before we tell you our choice. I'm going to start with the Hero Mavrick because this is Hero's first attempt at a premium product, and for that it is quite impressive. It is an energetic feeling motorcycle, and in that sense it is quite close to the Triumph Speed 400, in intent at least. Its performance finds a good middle ground between the 40 horsepower Triumph and the two slower 350s here. The trouble is, this bike isn't as happy as the other two when it's ridden sedately, and it's also a little uncomfortable for longer stints in the saddle. Then there is also the fact that in this segment at least, the Hero badge can't yet match the street cred that the other two bring to the table. Nevertheless, this is a likeable and feature-rich machine, but if you want an authentic retro riding experience, its Harley cousin the X440 is probably more fitting, although that bike costs about 40 to 50,000 more variant for variant. Moving over to the Honda CB350, this is a bike that I was not expecting to like as much as I did. It does so many things so well and is backed up by Honda's legendary bulletproof reliability and low ownership costs. It's built well, it's comfortable, smooth and delivers exceptional mileage. The trouble is that Honda has really ruined this motor by giving it super tall gearing. There's no effortless wave of torque that you can ride, and you constantly need to make gear shifts to be in the power band. It sort of feels like Honda has brought a knife to a gunfight in this regard. And then there is my personal quibble with the Honda's design philosophy. The sales numbers show that people do seem to like it, but I find it hard to accept how Honda has benchmarked the Royal Enfield so closely. You've probably surmised by now that the Royal Enfield Bullet 350 is our choice of this lot. On the spec sheet it is outclassed by some margin, but once you get astride it, all those numbers will fade into oblivion and you'll be reminded of what a charming, well-rounded motorcycle this is. Unlike the older Royal Enfields, there are no crippling vibrations here, quality is at an impressive high level and the ride comfort is just beautiful. Add to it the fact that everything just works as it should on a modern retro motorcycle. Then there is also the fact that as a Royal Enfield owner, there are a multitude of rides and events that you get to be a part of, and Royal Enfield's dealer and service network is so widespread across the country that you can get basic spares even in remote locations like Ladakh. The cherry on top is that this is the most affordable motorcycle that we have here. That decidedly tilts the scales in the Bullet's favour. Let us know which is your favourite amongst these three in the comments below. Hit like and stay subscribed to the Autocar India YouTube channel with notifications. Thank you.